It's a big issue online. It's an ongoing massive battle in the media between trans groups and feminist groups. And you think, what on earth has this got to do with me? I've got a job, I've got children, I've got the shopping to do. This is not something that concerns me in my daily life. Well, maybe it should, because the ongoing battle between different groups on nature of identity and gender, something that probably doesn't trouble most of us from one day to the next, is something that is, well, being brought into our schools. Primary school and secondary school trans groups are going in and campaigners and talking about the nature of identity and whether or not children are in the right gender identity. It's a big issue. We have seen more and more children are being assigned, going off to clinics like the Tavistock Clinic, which is a most famous clinic in the country that deals with this issue, and many others, looking for help on their either gender dysmorphia, actually genuinely believing they're in the wrong body, and other issues over their gender identity. It's a row that has come up against, well, some rather strange foes, because bizarrely, in some areas, it's been seen as an anti-women agenda. I know. Hard to get your head around all of this, isn't it? But it does matter, because when our children are being talked to in school about issues as serious and important as this, and parents perhaps often completely unaware, it can create ongoing issues. Well, one person who did raise some concerns about perhaps doctors and parents being too hasty in their diagnoses is Dr. Heather Brunskell-Evans. She's a sociologist. She's a senior fellow at King's College London. And last week she was sacked from an unpaid position as an official at the Women's Equality Party after she raised concerns about adults effectively being too quick to label children as transgender. She has now been told her services are no longer required at the Women's Equality Party. It's had no contact with them since. And it was in the newspapers yesterday of this. But I'm delighted to say that Heather joins us now. Good morning to you, Heather.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. I say, for an awful lot of people, as they're going about their normal daily lives, they'll wonder what on earth this big fuss is about. I mean, certainly if you're on Twitter, this is a huge, big issue. But for most people, it isn't. But why should ordinary people going about their ordinary daily lives, but particularly those with children, why should they be concerned about this battle?
Well, they should be concerned for a number of reasons, particularly the one that you pointed out, Julia, that perhaps without realizing it, there are transgender-led groups who go into schools now who educate children, very young children, right through to secondary school, and educate the teachers about transgender. Now, within that, it isn't just that the idea, perhaps, that we should be much more fluid about gender, and little boys and little girls should be allowed to express themselves in whichever way they want. And personally, I think that's an excellent idea. What is actually being said is that it's possible for children to actually be in the wrong body, to be, for example, a boy who is really a girl and a girl who is really a boy. Now, there are troubles with this, because what it does is two things. It suggests that if you were a boy, for example, or conversely, if you're a girl, if you're a boy and you don't want to do macho things, you're not particularly into football, you like particular toys, you would rather wear such and such.
Which could just be
clothes.
A completely ordinary, normal boy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That there may be a problem with that child. He may be really a girl. I think once you step over that line, then that's actually quite serious, because a lot of things follow on from that.
And we are seeing this, the transgender clinics, they obviously don't start any sort of medical procedures or anything until people are a long way down the line. They've lived as someone of the opposite sex for a long time. They're already adults. But there is now an increasing move towards younger prepubescent children being given drugs to stop them from going through puberty, so that they don't develop perhaps more in the sexuality of the what they believe to be the wrong gender, so that it will be easier for them to transition later. But of course, that is a massive decision that's being made either by a young child, a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old, or by parents of a child, of course, neither of whom I'm going to guess are experts in this.
Exactly so, exactly so. The children aren't given medication until they are prepubescent, but to even socially transgender a child, for example, at the age of 3, 4, 5, whatever, seems to me very problematic, because in that process of transgendering a child, you give the child an understanding that it really is the wrong gender, and therefore you're pushing the child along a certain route, which almost invariably leads to medication.
But hold on a minute. What about the people saying, well, no, this is about accepting a child. So if a child is absolutely adamant, no, I'm a girl, not a boy, or whichever way round it is, and it's not just that they want to wear a dress-up fairy dress or something like that. I mean, they genuinely, they give all the impression that they genuinely believe they are a different gender. Surely we should be more accepting of that. Why? Lots of people will be saying, well, hold on, why is that a problem?
I think we should be very accepting of that. I really, really do. The problem is, Julie, that what is happening is that often children get their language from their parents, from the school, and there is an increasing amount of children. It's an exponential rise in children who are saying that they are transgender. Now, I don't think the evidence points to the fact that what has actually happened is that these children have existed since the beginning of time. I think children who are feel trapped by or disconcerted by gender have probably existed, because gender is quite constraining. I felt constrained by being a girl when I was a child, because I was told that I shouldn't want to wear should wear dresses and climb trees, and then my mother always got very cross with me because I did climb the trees and my dresses got torn. But I just thank goodness that I didn't live in a society at that time which said that because I had those desires, that therefore I was a boy. So the danger is now that children have a particular lens through which they can understand.
And that's a lens that you're saying, and again, you can say it can be perfectly normal and the same, but fundamentally they're in a situation where they are being led down, sort of hand by hand, led down a path which leads to, well, we know with transgender people, an incredibly high rate of self-harm, of suicide attempts and suicide. But there's lots of evidence that's even after people have gone through full transitions. So even when they're living fully as someone of a different gender, this can be the case. Now, there'll be a very long journey, maybe lots of other issues. There are lots of concerns now, and there are groups saying that it's very important that people who are transgender people should be accepted, and certainly transphobic attacks unacceptable. And of course, I'm sure you would agree with all of that, as would any right-thinking person listening. But will be a lot of people. I mean, absolutely. I would have no issue if my child was gay or straight, or as long as she's happy and healthy. I really couldn't care less. I think a lot of us might say, life would be easier if you didn't feel that you were trapped in the wrong body and you were happy with yourself and happy with your body. Life's easier. But I think most parents would want to think they'd be supportive. But is your worry that there are parents who are almost pushing their children down this route?
Well, I think there are, but I don't want to blame parents for this, because I think that the parents themselves have picked up the idea that it's possible to be born in the wrong body. Now, this is a completely different thing, and I think it's important that people understand this. This is a very big claim. It isn't the claim that a child can be uncomfortable with its gender. It's the claim that the child has actually being born in the wrong body. And the minute that concept enters the culture, then you set the child along what will probably be quite a painful path, and to me, an unnecessary path, because we need to distinguish, are we talking about gender, which we're probably all constrained by in one way or another, or are we talking about bodies? The minute we talk about bodies, it becomes very serious. And what I want to say to you, Julia, before this ends, is it really shouldn't be labelled as transphobia to raise
concerns.
Raise the concerns. And what I would also like to say as a sociologist is, I have done a study of the alleged science around this, and it isn't at all clear-cut that it is even possible to be in the wrong body. So we need to have an open public discussion about this. whether it's possible to have a pink brain or a blue brain, if you see what I mean. I'm just using that in a very
I mean,
positive
this
sense.
is the reason why you were sacked from the Women's Equality Party. You weren't in a paid role, but you were
Yeah,
a
I had a
spokesperson.
significant role actually,
Yeah.
but it wasn't paid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you've been sacked, and basically it's because of comments you made on a radio program last week, and basically saying that some parents and medical staff were now too quick to diagnose children confused about their gender as being, as you say, trapped in the wrong body. And there were some complaints made, including from someone who identified as a a man who identifies as a woman, and that you have since been sacked because it's viewed that your what you had said was not was offensive and was not acceptable. We are in quite dangerous territory, are we not? If people who, you're an expert in your field, if you are going to be sacked from a role from any party for making a statement, which I think vast majority of people, well-meaning people, would agree.
It's very strange, Julia, because whilst the program was in the autumn, by the way, it wasn't last week.
Yeah.
It's raged on and on and on, the dispute about it since then. Just to clear it up, the Women's Equality Party will not say who made the complaint, but various people have suggested that it was them on social media. So this is, in a sense, trial by social media. But let's move on from that, and let's move on from the Women's Equality Party, because I think it signifies something much larger that is going on in the culture, and that is that people are afraid to speak out and to people who are not transphobic, people who want to express their worries and concerns. And since that program, so for the past 3 months, since this has been raging, I have had so many people come up to me privately and say, we're so pleased you're speaking about this because we feel exactly the same, and we daren't say it. And I have to say, it's not just this sort of person on the bus that says that to me, or the person in my singing group. It is also people who work more directly with transgender children.
Yeah, and that the experts certainly appear to be more on your side.